morning everyone. I hope you are all doing well. So today I'm going to discuss you a topic from the chapter Anatomy of Flowering Plants, and the topic is plant tissues. Before start the chapter, I just want to ask you a simple question. Can you imagine a building without bricks? The answer is basically no. A building cannot be formed without bricks. So similarly, in an organism, the whole body is formed of many cells or the group of cells. Either it's a plant or animal. So the tissue is what basically the tissue is group of similar cells that together perform specific functions. So basically this is the definition of tissue. Tissues are group of similar cells that together perform specific functions. So if I talk about plants, plants have their own tissues. Based on the dividing capacity, we classify. So if we classify based on dividing capacity, there are basically two types of tissues. First is meristematic tissues, and the second is permanent tissues. So I'm talking about the plants. On the basis of their dividing capacity, we have two types of tissues. First is meristematic tissue and the second is permanent tissue. Further, these meristematic tissues, on the basis of location, they are of the three types. Before going to their classification, first I'll talk about these meristematic tissues. Meristematic tissues are actively dividing cells. Okay, so meristematic tissues are actively dividing cells. If we talk about their classification on the basis of location, we have three types of meristematic tissues. First is apical meristem. Second is intercalary meristem, and the third is lateral meristem. So all these type of tissues have their own function. Similarly, if I talk about permanent tissues, there are two types of tissues. So these are two types of tissues. First is simple permanent tissues. These tissues are formed of same kind of cells, and the second type is complex permanent tissues. Basically, these complex permanent tissues, they comprises different kind of cells. Simple permanent tissues, again based on their function, based on their structure, there are different type of simple permanent tissue. So we have Parenchyma, Collenchyma, and Sclerenchyma type of tissues. Further, these Parenchyma have their modifications. They can be Chlorenchyma. If the chloroplast present in the parenchyma, they are known as Chlorenchyma, and in case of aquatic plants, there are air cavities, and these type of tissues are Parenchyma. We will discuss all these type of tissues further in our lecture, and If I talk about these complex permanent tissues, which comprises like more than one type of cells, these are complex permanent tissue, and these are basically known as vascular tissues. And these are again like two types. We have xylem and we have phloem. So this is a general idea about the tissues, their classification based on their dividing capacity. We have meristematic tissue and we have permanent tissue. These meristematic tissues are actively dividing, and based on their location in a plant, we have apical meristem, intercalary meristem and lateral meristem. Apical meristem is usually present at root apical meristem and shoot apical meristem. If I draw a plant like this, so here you can see this is the aerial part and this is the root portion. We have the leaves. So in a plant we have two apex. This is shoot apex and we have this root apex. So these are like apical meristem. This is called as shoot apical meristem and this is root apical meristem. And these apical meristems are usually perform the function in elongation of the plant, okay, or you can say increase the size of plant. Again, then if we talk about these parts, this node, okay, these node parts. So either side of the node, we have another type of tissue called intercalary meristem. These intercalary meristems are present on either side of node and they perform the function of growth. This is a like you can see this in grasses. If we cut the grass, they grow again due to the presence of this intercalary meristem. And the third type, we have this lateral meristem. This lateral meristem is present either side of the stem. This is called lateral meristem. And the lateral meristem perform the function of growth in diameter. Usually this lateral meristem perform the secondary growth that we will discuss further, and this apical meristem perform the function of like it perform primary growth. So this is all about the meristematic tissues. They are different type of tissues and they perform different type of functions. Meristematic tissues have their characteristic features such as they have thin cell wall, they have a prominent nucleus, they have a prominent cytoplasm. The vacuole is usually absent. There is a reason that why vacuole is absent, because they are actively dividing cells and they do not need to store the food. That's why they are just actively dividing and they lack vacuole. Okay, if we talk about these permanent tissues, these permanent tissue lost the capacity of divide. Okay, these meristematic tissues further made this permanent tissue when they lost the capability to divide. Okay, so there are basically simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. As I have already discussed, that the simple permanent tissues, they consist of similar kind of, or we can say one type of tissues. They can be parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. If we talk about these parenchyma cells, parenchyma tissues perform the functions of usually storage. So their function is mainly storage, photosynthesis, okay, that we discussed is these permanent tissues. First is parenchyma. Parenchyma cells have thin wall. They usually lost the capability to divide. They perform function such as storage, photosynthesis, etc. Special type of parenchyma cells that perform photosynthesis due to the presence of chloroplasts. These are Sclerenchyma. Here I give you an example. If you see a potato, this potato store food, and the tissue which help in storage of food are parenchyma tissues. Second, we have this collenchyma. Collenchyma cells have thickened, or you can say irregular thickened cell wall. Second is collenchyma. Collenchyma cells have irregular thickened wall. These type of tissues usually provide elasticity to the plant. Okay, if you see in a windy conditions, the plants or plant shoots usually bend. They do not break. So, but actually do not let the shoot break in a windy condition or a windy environment. This is due to the presence of collenchyma cells. They provide elasticity to the shoot, which help the shoot to get bent and not break. Third type of tissue we have Sclerenchyma tissues. Sclerenchyma tissues are completely filled, or you can say their cell walls are filled with lignin. Lignin is a micromolecule that provides strength. It also provides protection to the plant. Usually these Sclerenchyma tissues are dead tissues. So these different type of simple permanent tissue have their own function. Presence of any substance in their cell walls that lead to a specific function. For example, parenchyma usually do not comprise any kind of deposition. Collenchyma comprises irregular deposition along the corners, whereas this Sclerenchyma are completely lignified. They have their deposition of lignin in their cell wall that perform strength protection to the plant. Okay. Further, we have this second type of permanent tissue, that is complex permanent tissues. Complex, why? Because they comprises two type of, or I can say more than one type of cells. So complex permanent tissues. Complex permanent tissues, they are usually known as vascular tissue. These are of two types. First is Xylem and the second is Phloem. Their function is mainly in the conduction of water, minerals, food or other substances such as hormones, etc. In xylem, there are further four type of tissues. There are tracheids, there are vessels, there is xylem fiber and xylem parenchyma. Among these four, these three are dead, whereas only parenchyma are living type of tissues. And if I talk about their function is the transportation, or you can say conduction of water and minerals. Then if I talk about this phloem, again phloem also have four type of tissues. These are seed tubes, companion cells, phloem, parenchyma and phloem fibers. Among these four, the first three are living, and only Sclerenchyma is a kind of dead tissue. If I talk about their function is the translocation. In Phloem, we usually use the word translocation of food and other substances such as like hormones or other nutrients, etc. So till now we have discussed about the plant tissues, their definition, their classification, and further different type of tissues. Either they are meristematic, they are permanent tissues, along with their structure and functions. Thank you.